Wow, it has been a while. I'm so glad to see you doing well and looking beautiful as ever.
Well, same as you. I saw the picture of your son. I said, wow, this boy has grown. I don't even remember the last time I saw him.
Yeah, he is 10 now. He'll be 11 in March. And I'm like, woo, time. I
Wow.
don't want
He
to say
looks
time
so
slow
good.
down, but he's growing. He's a smart boy. I'm so proud of him.
That's good. He's
So
looking very
proud.
good. He's
Thank you.
looking very good. How's the
Thank you. Thank
family?
you. Everybody's well. Yep.
That's good.
Everybody's
That's
doing
good.
good. Mhm.
Well, I'm not going to take much of your time. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. Of course, we all have a story, but if we are not connected to people with bigger platform, then of course our story is never heard. And so that's why I wanted to start something on my own because I know um, I moved from Colombia. I think it's almost 2 years. I'm going to my 2 years. And actually, going through the transition, I've met so many people that sharing my story, I found out I have so many things in common with some people. But of course, since we don't talk to nobody, we never know what people go through
That's true.
and never hear their story. And so
So
that's one of the reasons why I wanted to start this. So thank you so much for agreeing to come on. There is no format for this conversation.
okay.
It's whatever you're comfortable in sharing. But I do always say that I hope every conversation we have, of course, people go through a lot and people are still working through whatever they've gone through. But I would like every conversation to end on a positive note. Because if you are still here and if you've been able to make it through whatever you've gone through, then of course you are an overcomer. And basically, that's a topic for every conversation that we're going to have to give hope to whoever is listening to it that if Miss Kim was able to go through this and come out and is still here, then of course I can also fight through it and survive it. And
Right.
so I hope yes, I always recommend that every conversation end on a hopeful note, on a good note that giving people hope and giving people the faith that to keep fighting. And so that's
Mhm.
what this is about. So you are welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so
Mhm.
excited about this platform because everybody does have a story, as you say, and everybody's story isn't with what some would consider harsh trauma, but there are
Mhm.
always things and experiences that people have gone through that have left scars, left areas for healing, and then there's a process for that. So I am happy to share what some may not consider a harsh story because I am so grateful to God that I really don't have a harsh story. I don't have a hard and didn't have a hard life coming up as a child. I
Mhm.
didn't. My foundation was a strong foundation of support, of encouragement, of just everything that people are trying to teach people to get now. I believe I had. My challenge, Sarah, comes with when my village was telling me, girl, you can do anything, you can sing, you can speak, you can, whatever I could do, and my people put it in me. But when I got
Mhm.
in environments where people didn't know me as my village knew me, that was a challenge for me. When I was in my middle school, everybody in my small town, Wallace, South Carolina, was family pretty much.
Mhm.
Everybody knew everybody. And so we consolidated our 5 small cities in Marlborough County. We consolidated to a high school. And I had to go there knowing who I was in Wallace, but I had to remind myself of who I was when I got in high school. We were in a class of 300 and something persons, ninth grade through 12th grade, and I was a cheerleader. I sang on the chorus. I have the same five best friends from kindergarten to now, right? So my
Wow.
support stayed there, but I
Mhm.
had to remind myself constantly and still do as an adult of you have the support, You can do this. You can do that. You can do whatever was instilled in me by my parents and by my elders. I have to remind myself of that daily.
Mm. So that's so very true. I know we talk a lot, especially in the professional world, about sexism, racism, and of course, you sometimes you have to really fight and lose nails whilst you're climbing up. So, how did you overcome that? I know you had your support. I know you had the encouragement. It's been instilled in you. You are the best. So basically, you don't have to compare yourself to anybody. You know who Kim is. So, how were you able to climb up? Of course, now you do have a doctor behind your name, or actually before your name. So, how did you? Congratulations on that.
Thank you so much. It'll
What's
be
the doctor in? Doctor in what?
in human services, public service leadership, and then my
Wow,
specialization is nonprofit organization management.
great. I need to come see
Mhm.
you.
Please do. Come on. We'll learn together.
So how did Miss Kim, how did you get to where you are? I know I was in South Carolina for over 20 years. Um, I started my business in South Carolina. I schooled undergrad, masters, everything in South Carolina. I knew South Carolina. And I knew of course, I experienced the racism, tribalism from church to home to school, everywhere I went. So, how
Yes.
did you overcome all that to get to where you are today?
The question should be, how am I overcoming it? Because
Mm,
it is still real, and it is still faced. It is still a part of our life here in South Carolina and our life in the United States, actually in the world.
mm-hmm,
Um, I would say that I have to again remind myself. A lot of times when I go in places and we're having to face and talk about harsh issues, I'll choose the one most close to my heart is family services and
mm,
child welfare. And so when we have to go in those arenas and we have to talk about the not so good things, I put it that way, not so good things that goes on when families face the child welfare system or any other services, right? And
mm-hmm,
we have to address that this family has been treated this way because the color of their skin is this family has been allowed other resources because the color of their skin is this.
mm-hmm,
And those are very, very real situations. And oftentimes in those environments, I have to proclaim at the beginning, if you wish to see me as the angry Black woman, then I'll be that. However,
mm,
these are the challenges that are before us, but I don't um, present the negatives without actually trying to offer the positives, trying to offer the solutions. And if I dwelled on the racism, the classism, all of that stuff, those various barriers that prevent effective services, if that's all I'm fussing about and not trying to walk through the solutions, then I'll never get anywhere. That's how
mm,
I get through it. I understand that there is a beneficial end somewhere. Now, how I have to fight, who I have to talk to, how I have to talk to them, then I'll do that. But I have learned throughout, we have to address the issue, and we have to be honest that this is this. This looks like this. If it looks like racism, 9 times out of 10, it is. But I also have
mm,
to go back to my foundation from Marlboro County. To me, there was a whole lot of racism. We walked out of we had a Black History program. It was either my junior or senior year. I think it was my senior year in high school. We had a Black History program. And the white students came in when they thought the program was going to be over, but actually we started a little later, so the program was still going on. So it was anywhere from 50 to 100 white kids who walked in the assembly late. I was so angry. I was so fired up. And this lady, Coach Shirley Bethay, I was so angry. I said, how can they disrespect us? How can they not, reverence our history? Da, 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 da. And I'm
mm-hmm,
you know, the people who did this and the people who did that. And she said, Kim, are you going to fuss or are you going to make something of yourself?
Mm.
Like, And then 12th grade, I was ready to fuss. But now as an adult, I know that I have to take all of that, address it again, and I did address it. Now it probably
Mhm.
wasn't a nice way, but I addressed it. Okay. In my 17, 18-year-old mind, I addressed it the way I felt it needed to be addressed. And they understood
Mhm.
that it was wrong and it was just plain disrespectful how you're
Yeah.
not going to come into a program. But then we have those same minded persons that are working in our service systems these days, and they are serving families based on their idea of what family should look like, right? And we
Mhm.
have to understand that families have very different dynamics, very different characteristics. Even in the Black family, I don't like going in a room and have to answer for every Black person in South Carolina and what
Mhm.
their life should look like, what this should look like, because everybody hadn't had a life like I have. Every Black person doesn't have the same life. And I say within our culture, we have customs.
Yeah.
And so I think we have to start honoring those customs. And I refuse. Now, if I can explain something, I'll explain it. But I won't be the answer to every Black,
That's
every
true.
Black every Black challenge or every what we consider, Black issue in South
Mhm.
Carolina. However, when I see that those issues aren't being addressed, because it is Black people who are the majority that are going through this, then I do feel like I have a voice, or I connect with people who are aware of the process on how to handle that. Does that make
Mm.
sense?
That makes sense. That makes sense. So if I do understand, yes, there is an issue that you're trying to address, but it's how you approach it.
Right.
That's
Exactly
right.
right.
Okay. Okay.
Exactly right.
That makes sense.
Mm.
So would you say, so I'll put myself in this position. Would you say the struggle or how we address some of these issues is going to be different from maybe somebody coming from Africa or being raised in Africa or African American and maybe another race? And
Yeah.
how do you think we need to present ourselves when we faced with these challenges? How should we address those? Of course, we are all raised different. We
Mhm.
may be getting the same point across, but how I'm going to address it may be different from how you address it,
Right.
right?
Right. Right.
So, with you being, I'll say at the top, because right now, is there anything above a doctorate degree?
No. No.
So, so with you being at the top, how do you think, or what would you advise somebody? I'm in the human services field as well. I've been in foster care for about 13 years now. And so I do understand where you're coming from, but of course, that's not the topic for today. So,
Right.
what would you tell me, or what would you tell somebody? It doesn't matter if an African American or an African here in the community. How would you advise us to overcome some of these things, either professionally or out in the community?
Whether professionally or personally, we have to understand, number one, that we can't change anyone except ourselves.
Mm,
And so I think a lot of times I'll use the comparison of what I've learned. I was married to Sule, and he's from the Gambia, and so a lot of things that we face as Black people here in America, he really just couldn't understand. Like, why
mm,
won't y'all just accept so and so and so? Just accept this. Just accept that, because America to him, the land of the free, the home of the brave, and I am an American born, raised, and I do believe that there are a whole lot of opportunities for any and everybody that lives, born in America, and who comes and to reside in America. However, the challenges and the barriers to those that greatness is great as well. And so what we have to understand, I'll compare the native born African and the native born African American here, that the any other races, cultures, they're not really going to distinguish us between African and African American. We do that ourselves. We make that difference. Okay. So if you and I both were to go in the store and not open our mouths, they would not say, oh, that young lady is from Ghana, this young lady is from America. They would not say two Black women came in this store.
That's right.
And so say that we are both in the store and we are ready to shop, and we have, gotten our bills paid, and here we go. We want to go shopping. And when we get in the store, we are both looked at, followed, to see if we're going to steal anything. You can open your mouth and say, and start talking. They're going to acknowledge your accent, but they're still going to be watching you. So how do you handle that? You decide whether those people are worthy of getting your money, or you decide if you want to stand there and make them see that you are somebody, or you are worthy of their business. I have chosen to make them prove that they are worthy of my money, instead of trying to make them see that I am somebody, because I already know that. Right. And I think if we start standing up, and when we feel that we need to, I can't tell you when to speak up or when not to speak up, because sometimes the situation doesn't allow you to speak up. If we were to get stopped by cops, they're not going. Many cops I work with law enforcement at the courthouse where I work. Many of them, the majority of them, anybody that I've come across, are very good, sound, reasonable persons. But when we are in the heat of the moment, nobody's going to care where I work. Nobody's going to care what my degree is. Nobody's going to care what my foundation is. If they're of that mindset, this is a Black woman, she may blah, 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 blah. So we don't know what the other person is or what the other person's mindset is. So we have to govern ourselves based on, they may see me as a threat. Let me try to stay calm.
Yeah.
So they can be calm, right? But sometimes that doesn't always work. So I said all of that to say there's no absolute answer for me to tell you how to address things that don't promote you as a person. You have to understand and believe who you are, and believe that you are worthy of the best, whatever that best is. We have to hold ourselves accountable by, if I want to obtain, since we talked about degrees, if I want to obtain a doctorate, then I have to put in the work. Not many people hand those out. Some people can, go places and, get doctorates. We have schools that, you pay some money, you can get your doctorate. And so if that's what you want to do, then get your money together and pay it and do that. But we have to make sure that we hold ourselves accountable and we build ourselves up so that we know who we are. I think a lot of times we try too much to make people recognize us as being powerful people. We already are powerful people. Those of us who believe in the most kind creator, God, and who live according to the teachings and the messages of Jesus Christ, and we already know that we are fearfully and we are wonderfully made. I had a conversation the other day, and I told people, if we start living what we say we believe, then the chaos in this world that we live in will not be as much as it is.
Wow. That's a whole sermon on its own. Wow, that's very interesting. And it's very true. So going back to, of course, I asked the question, how would you address it being African American, African descent and all that? And that's very true. Sometimes people identify you by what, like you said, your accent. Because other than that, nobody will know you are African or you just moved from Africa.
Right.
But it's very true. I think sometimes we look down upon ourselves. I tell people going to school in Ghana was the hardest, to me, is the hardest thing. Because basically, you need to be able to study to pass, to be able to get through. Here you have multiple chances of maybe you fail in your first semester, you may get a tutor and they may consider you with a C or a D. In Ghana, when you fail, you fail. And so I think, as you said, African Americans, or I'm not even going to make this about a race thing, as women, we downgrade our potential and also our qualities. There are things that we're good at, but I guess we always looking for somebody to always say, hey, you are good at this,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
hey,
yeah,
you are important, hey,
yeah.
you can do this. We're always looking for somebody to give us that pep talk
Hmm.
when we can actually give it to ourselves instead of waiting, because you don't always get applause even
Right.
on the job or even
Yeah.
from your family or wherever you are. So I think it's very important, as you said, that we need to know our worth and where we're coming from to be able to keep fighting.
Hmm.
But I'm hoping this is going to encourage someone that it's not going to be handed to you on a silver platter or a gold platter.
Right.
There are some things you have to work for it, and there
Right.
are some ladders you have to climb yourself. It may take somebody 5 years, it may take somebody 10, it may take somebody two, depending on your strength, depending on your culture and people that you have around you. Some people may have the people to push them, others won't. But
Right.
I think the most important is not giving up,
Right.
because basically when you give up, then there's nothing else to work for.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
thank you for your encouragement. What
You're
would be your
welcome.
last word to, I know I don't want to make this a race thing, but at the same time, in general, what would be your last word to professionals or women, anybody going through any kind of struggle?
You said something. You talked about validation. And many people, when I serve, whatever I'm serving in, whether it's professionally or personally, I know that I have to serve with empathy, because
Mm,
what everybody does not have the same foundation that I have, whether it's my family foundation dynamics or whether it's educational. However, everybody is not of that same foundation. But what I will say is that me serving with empathy helps me to understand where a person could come from, but it
mm-hmm,
also motivates me to encourage them to know where the other opportunities are. And so
mm,
if you did not have supportive families, if you do not have five friends that you have been friends with from kindergarten, if you do not have a PhD, if you do not have this platform, then first of all, you were built, so there's innate abilities, there's something inside of you, that right, that wrong, that should I or shouldn't I, you have the ability to decide your desires. You also have the ability and the responsibility to be accountable for the things that you do, that you want, the things that you want to achieve them. It's your responsibility to make it happen. How do you make it happen? You
mm-hmm,
acknowledge that you acknowledge what you want. And if you don't see it immediately in your immediate circle, then look for it around you. God always plants and put persons and things, the things that you need, the provision, I'll say it that way, the provision that you need to succeed is always there. Don't let anything stop you. What you didn't have is out there.
mm,
And ask God for the discernment to make sure, because a lot of times we can say, oh, I want this, I want this best friend, I want somebody to be honest with me, I want somebody to do this, I want somebody to, you just tell me when I'm wrong or tell me when I'm not wrong, and that will come. Ask God
mm-hmm,
discernment to make sure that's the right mouthpiece for you
mm.
able to get to where you need to be. I hope I'm not rambling, but I like to speak on accountability. It is up to us to position ourselves, to trust God for the provision
Mhm.
to get to where we need to be. And you can do it. You can do it. It's already in you. Just, enact upon it. Use what's in you.
Just tap into it. That's very good. Well, thank you so much, Ms. Kim, for honoring this invitation. I hope this blesses someone. Um, and I don't even want to go there. I was going to say something about mental health because I know this is a big issue and we are all going through something. So I hope this encourages someone, even if you haven't found your potential yet, even if you don't know what you're capable of doing. As she said, find people around you that's going to help you find this potential in yourself. So thank you so much for coming on tonight.
You're welcome. Blessings upon you and this platform.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
You too. Bye bye.
All right. Bye bye.